with regards to my last few videos and my most recent dust-up with Matthew 4:19, I've come to ask myself some questions, and I've noticed, of course, the bewilderment of many on the comments section of my videos as to why I bother to engage with someone like Len. And I think it's an interesting question. You know, in the comments threads that Len and I have been involved in, they've inevitably sort of just deteriorated into these name-calling sort of bully tactic free-for-alls of accusations of not listening and obfuscations and whatnot, and it really doesn't go anywhere, of course. Now, I should say in my own defense, of course, that the videos that he is commenting on, I've tried to go out of my way to express that I'm not here to belittle anyone. I'm not making personal attacks, but rather I'm being proselytized too. I've got logical problems with the theology, and I'm expressing those reasons why the theology is not compelling to me. It's being treated, of course, as if I'm doing the other. But I don't think anybody could find a video where I've talked about people being stupid for believing these things, or made mention of following the doctrines of Bronze Age goat sexers or something like that. I may have expressed bewilderment that people would still be buying into 2,500-year-old texts or something, but I don't think I've made those personal attacks. It's sort of being treated as though I have. And of course, one of Len's biggest contentions is that I've made up a straw man sort of thing of Christianity, and I'm just knocking that down, and that I have no desire to actually learn what the theology is all about. Well, I mean, the same argument could be made the other way. In fact, that's the point of this video, is that I think I'm far more interested in the Christian theology than any Christian fundamentalist is interested in what I think. And this forms the crux of the problem for me when it comes to any kind of dialogue. Now, Len may say that I have no interest, but he has not been privy to any conversations I've had with more open and generous, charitable Christians, where I've been sort of almost more free, without this constant proselytizing and beating the drum of, Mike, God exists. It's not going to be, not going to be good for you, Mike. The threat narratives, to actually ask questions and inquire and clarify for myself what the doctrine actually says. And that has taken place. It's taken place on many occasions. I've expressed as much in previous videos. A very good friend of mine, we drove in a car for 3 days. He's a Christian. I clearly am not. And we had wonderful discussions the entire time. We, of course, left agreeing to disagree, but I felt like I understood him a lot more, and I felt like he understood me a lot more. More importantly, I felt like he was genuinely interested in my point of view, my perspective, and what I thought. I don't get the same, obviously, from Len. Now, some of the questions that I have relate to my perspective, and this is why I made the previous video on respecting other people's presuppositions. And I should clarify, I don't mean you must, respect someone's irrational conclusions, but when we have presuppositions that our system of reasoning and ethics and whatnot are based on, that we cannot prove, and we also cannot disprove, such as presuppositional apologetics, such as reasoning to justify reasoning, then I think the intellectual charitable thing to do is, of course, to respect that this is that person's basis. And you're not likely to change someone's mind by browbeating them and, the Cy ten Bruggencate fashion, or the Matthew 4:19 fashion. If that's been successful, I'd be very surprised, sort of en masse, right? And so, I've expressed that I have some presuppositions, or I have a rational basis for my belief set and for my ethics. And I'm not willing to discuss those with someone like Len. And of course, he wants to just say, oh, here's a buck by a clue. Well, this is more of the schoolyard bully tactics. There's a reason behind why I'm not going to discuss it with someone like him. But, there's a reason behind his little statement there. Similar to, why does he care what atheists think? That quote from the recent hangout. Now, he may say he was kidding around, but I know a Freudian slip when I hear one. And so what this all boils down to, of course, what I'm getting at is, when I try to engage with someone, a Christian fundamentalist, like Len Pettis, I don't get the impression whatsoever that he gives a rat's ass what I actually think. He's not interested in me. In a sense, he's interested in my soul. And that's not to disregard the place that that's coming from. I'm going to give him the intellectual charity of assuming that his intentions are pure and that he's doing exactly what he thinks is right and virtuous. Much the same way as I expressed that when my father died and he came onto my channel and said he was praying, and a few people kind of attacked him for that. And I said, well, no, prayer is what Len holds most dear. So he's offering that which he holds most dear. I will accept the sentiment in the manner in which it was meant. So I'm not, sort of assigning evil motives to Len for wanting to just proselytize at every corner and not really giving a rat's ass what I actually think. However, it does erect barriers it's logistically impossible for me to have a reasonable conversation with someone when I get that they have no interest in who I am as a person or what I think. And they're going to just be so quick to disregard anything that I would say. If I say I've got a rational explanation for my belief set, I would invite you in. But I'm not going to invite you in if you're going to just presuppose right off the bat. It's funny because I remember back to a video that the Bible Thumping Wingnut made where he mischaracterized my stance on presuppositional apologetics. And he'd said, if you're going to tell me I got to check my presuppositional apologetics at the door, well, what's the use in having a conversation? And I'd never said anything of the sort. But that may be a little bit of projection because that's exactly what's happening here. They reject, the part of the presuppositional position of the fundamentalist Christian is that they reject all other worldviews out of hand. So what's the point in talking? And I've had a couple of very wonderful private messages and a couple of great comments from people sort of reminding me of that fact that I'm obviously spinning my wheels and there's no point in trying to have any kind of a discourse, which is what I've sort of clumsily been trying to get to all along in this discussion. When I had my earlier videos where I said, there's no sense in having dialogue with these people, I'm sort of finally getting to that point where even I understand my own point. And so, to be as humble as I can, hey, listen, I don't have all the answers either. I feel like I'm at least honest enough to admit that. And I'm here on a quest. I'm here on a quest for personal growth and wisdom. And so I don't have all the answers. But the thing is, when you try to engage in with someone in dialogue, and you try to express the current state of your belief set and what you think is true and accurate, and you're met only with a hammer, and it's an unsubstantiated hammer at that, and a constant threat narrative, at some point, you're either going to have to stop or you're going to have to mount a permanent fixture on your forehead to avoid injury, right? So I don't really have any dislike. I mean, some people have said I've exercised the patience of a saint with Len at times. I don't have any particular dislike for Len as a human being, so that's probably why I have that. I dislike very few people. But I certainly have a dislike for the dialogue and the manner in which he conducts himself in terms of, again, these bully tactics, making slanderous accusations about how I conduct myself in business and things like that. These are obvious, this is what a bully does, right? This is why you never give too much information about your personal life to a bully, because they will find the things that they think, can easily hurt you, and then they will file those away for future use when they need them. And similar with the threat narrative, I think Len resorts to that when he gets frustrated in a conversation. And oddly enough, I don't think that's very very much in keeping with the theology. Getting back to, myself not being compelled, part of my belief set involves first principles. I do believe in first principles. The initiation of the use of force is wrong, coercion is wrong, etc., etc. There are many that I hold dear. And so when it comes to the Christian theology, my first principles, or any theology, or any system of ethics, my first principles makes it very easy for me to reject any such proposition if it violates those first principles. So I don't need to understand it in its entirety. If a system involves coercion, I reject it as immoral. If a system involves initiation of the use of force, I reject it as immoral, or at the very least not compelling for me to adopt. And that's where I'm coming from. So when I talk about things like God created man, God created evil, God commanded man not to do evil, that's a square circle to me. That this is something that violates first principles. And so I reject it. So when I'm asking those questions, or I'm making those statements, looking to see what kind of response I get, this is why I'm doing that. I'm not here to attack anybody's personal reasons to believe. I have no desire to convert anyone to atheism, for instance, because I don't, aside from the public square, which I'll fight that battle separately, I understand that I'm not likely to convince anyone to drop their faith. It's just not likely to happen. All I can do is talk to people and let them know my viewpoint, and we all sort of, end up where we end up. And I would say also, this is why I made the video recently where I asked, could people have a predisposition for whatever they believe? And I wasn't trying to pick on theists there. I used myself as an example as well. Because I do believe that. And I actually believe that most people do not reason their way into the positions they hold, the broader positions, the political positions and the theological positions, but rather these are sort of a compilation, aggregate of their experience, their childhood, their upbringing, their parents' beliefs, the beliefs and actions of the region around them. This is all sort of experiential. And then if they get to the point where they're sort of challenged, they develop ex post facto justifications for that reasoning. And very few people actually reason their way to a conclusion without these predispositions. And so it's very difficult to reason someone out of a position that they were reasoned into. If someone had been reasoned into a position, you might be able to, with sufficient evidence, reason them out of that position. But I think most of us don't reach those grander conclusions that way. So in any case, I'm going to title this video, Christian Fundamentalist, who am I to you, or what do you want with me, or something like that. And in some ways it's a question, but it's also really not, because I think I already know the answer. And it's unfortunate because I do think that it erects barriers. There are plenty of other Christians out there and other, people of other faiths that are far more open and willing to engage and actually seem to care more about what an atheist or a naturalist or a skeptic actually thinks and why, and are interested in engaging in thought experiments and hypotheticals. And, I really need to save my breath, obviously, for those sorts of people. And so it's unfortunate, but it's kind of the way it is. And I apologize for dragging anybody down in controversy over the last few months. But, hey, I'm only human. Thanks for watching.